Welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. I just want to let everybody have a minute to get to the stream, and I'm going to need to let everybody know what the stream is going on. In tonight's live stream, I'm going to be asking one critical question. And that question is, do Black lives matter to Black people? And the reason why I am asking this question, do Black lives matter to Black people, is because when I saw the aftermath of two incidents that transpired after the murder of George Floyd and the protest that ensued after that murder of George Floyd, I have to ask that question because you have all these people that are marching and protesting, talking about getting justice for George Floyd, but I don't see people really having it, seeing how they show how they value Black life. I mean, we will go out here and march and protest when a Black man is murdered by a white cop, one of these suburban commandos, or one of these beta males out here. This is something that we'll march and protest for, but we won't go out here and stand up and show that our lives matter to us, because we had several incidents that made me think about this. And one of the incidents that made me really think about Black lives mattering to Black people was the recent decision by your Christian Cooper to decide not to cooperate with the prosecutor's office as related to the false 911 call Amy Cooper made regarding his own life. And I found that to be quite troubling because here we have a Black man with the power to show that his life matters and an opportunity to show how much Black life matters to him. But instead of him taking that opportunity to show how much he values his own life, we see this Christian Cooper decline to cooperate with the prosecutor's office as related to the actions of this Amy Cooper, a woman who did not value this man's life and was practically willing to lie to have this man murdered by the police in what I call Klan on demand. And that's what these Karens do when they make these false 911 calls. They are basically like a Klan on demand, and they will just use the police as their own personal Ku Klux Klan to participate in a lynching of a Black man. But your Christian Cooper, it was more concerned about this white woman's life after this, and he wasn't concerned about his own. And that really shows me that there was something really wrong with your Christian Cooper, because he valued this white woman's life more than his own. And it showed me how spellbound this man was by white supremacy, that he was literally willing to put his own health, safety, freedom, and own life at risk, all because he wanted to protect this white woman's reputation. So, in some ways, he's deifying this white woman, making her out to be a god, but he doesn't understand that the Most High living God made all men the same, and the whole thing, and women the same. And your life should matter enough for you that you're not willing to throw it away because this woman is in her feelings, and you're not going to look to punish this woman and hold her accountable for the wrong that she participated in. I mean, you're willing to sacrifice an opportunity to punish this woman, all because you want to still continue getting crumbs from the slave master's table. And this whole attitude that Chris Cooper had, it just shows me how deep this self-hatred some black people have. And it's that self-hatred that is the core foundation of this whole idea that black life doesn't matter to black people. This whole core foundation of these black people not valuing their own lives comes from a self-hatred that was taught to them by white supremacy and the white supremacist system, which teaches them that their lives have less value because they are only valuable as what the whites in society believe them to have value. And that's the mindset that Christian Cooper has, and that's the mindset many other black people have, that is practically holding us back and preventing us from getting the justice we want to get as related to these crimes like this Amy Cooper participated in. Because when I take that critical examination of your Christian Cooper and his cowardly act, it just shows me how deep the self-hate goes, that this man practically didn't value his own life and was willing to practically throw away an opportunity to punish this white woman for her clearly egregious behaviors. Now, this woman, she had no problem thinking about killing him and letting him die at the hands of the police, but this man was talking about how this white woman has suffered enough. And this wasn't about her suffering. I mean, this quest for justice is about setting a boundary that all American citizens have to follow. And it's about establishing a line in the sand that these white racist females will have to follow as related to how they're going to treat black men. And that's what was the most important thing about Christian Cooper's case. But you're Christian Cooper because he has a bad case of self-hatred. He couldn't see that this wasn't about her suffering. This was about letting her be held accountable for her actions and punishing her for crossing a line by, one, making a fake 911 call and wasting New York City's resources, and two, practically putting a man at risk by making a false claim to the police that she is being attacked by a black man, and practically possibly leading to this man's death. So this woman, she didn't value this black man's life, but he didn't value his life. And that's the core problem that I see with many of these black people out here as related to the whole Black Lives Matter issue. And Christian Cooper is one of the cases I have a serious problem with because, again, this black man doesn't understand what he was representing. He doesn't understand what this legal precedent meant for black men. And he didn't have enough love for his fellow black brothers out here. He didn't think about the young boy who practically had to deal with the exact same situation where he brushed up against this white woman, and she also made this claim. Here's a chance to go out here and let these white women understand that there is a boundary as related to how we are going to be treated, and a boundary that will establish our respect. But this Christian Cooper didn't have enough respect or love of self to stand up and set that boundary. Now, that was the first of several troubling cases that made me ask this critical question: do Black lives matter to Black people? And the second case that made me ask that critical question was the shooting of an 8-year-old girl that cost her life near the scene of Rayshard Brooks' death. Now, this case shows me how little Black people value their own lives, because here we have a scene at this Wendy's that was burned down. We had Black people still marching and protesting, and we had a family looking like they were trying to go home and trying to make a turn to go home. And we have people shooting across the street from the very same place that Rayshard Brooks lost his life. And this is only a couple of weeks after Rayshard Brooks lost his life. We have a Black on Black shooting in this part of Atlanta. And again, it makes me ask the question, do Black lives matter to Black people, when you have a bunch of Black males who are so emotional, they want to get into a shootout right across the street from where Rayshard Brooks was murdered by the police. And we had all of this marching and protesting about Rayshard Brooks, but then we have people in the Black community participating in this violence where they're practically slaughtering each other. And that's quite troubling, because you want to march and protest to tell people that Black lives matter, but then you go out here and you murder a man and an 8-year-old girl in the crossfire, and you want to tell me Black lives matter. And that's where I have a problem with this whole slogan of Black Lives Matter, because I clearly see the issues as related to the self-hatred many in the Black community have. And this self-hatred is one of the things that motivates Black people to go out here and gun down their own, or like in the case of Christian Cooper, take a knee to white supremacy and give them a pass as related to showing a value for their own lives. So those two cases, I found them to be quite troubling, and they show me that Black life doesn't matter to some of these Black people out here, and we really need to educate some of our brothers and sisters about the value of Black life. Now, there was a third incident here in New York that I found to be quite troubling, that showed me how little people value Black life. I mean, I think it was here in the Bronx. We had a father. He was walking down the street with his daughter, and he's just taking his daughter out, and all of a sudden this car just comes up. Guy takes out a gun, shoots him in the head in the middle of the street, and leaves him to die in the middle of the street. And this is going on all while your mayor of New York is talking about making plans to paint Black Lives Matter in the middle of Fifth Avenue in front of Trump Tower. We have a campaign to make this worthless symbolic gesture where you're going to paint this sign down Fifth Avenue talking about Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, you go up to the Bronx and a father is walking home with his daughter, and he gets shot in the head in front of his own daughter. That just shows me again how little some Black people don't value Black life, yet they want to march and protest and tell white people that Black lives matter. No, how does Black life matter when you go out here and people in your neighborhood go out here and murder other black people, all while you're going out here marching and protesting, demanding change, but you're sitting there participating in the same dysfunctional behaviors that I saw growing up almost 30 years ago. I mean, when I look at these incidents, I can go back to my high school days and my junior high school days of the late 1980s and the crack epidemic. And here we have black people participating in the same type of violence that rappers talked about in the classic song Self Destruction, and black people continuing to participate in the self destructive behavior and talking about, on one side of their mouth, Black Life Mattering, but then going out here and participating in crimes that show how little they value the life of their black brothers and sisters. And I look at that incident again right here in the Bronx, where a father, basically just taking his daughter out, gets shot in the head in the middle of the street. And it shows me how little things have changed as related to black life here in this country, and how little black people value their own lives and how little they value their existence. A black man will go out here and kill another black man, or a black woman will kill another black woman, and it won't be a problem for them. But then they want to go out here and march and protest and talk about Black Life Mattering. And you can't say that Black Lives Matter as related to white cops and white racists, but then say it doesn't matter for black people. No, you have to say that Black Lives Matter in both cases, and in both cases, you have to establish a standard where you demand accountability and you demand punishment of these individuals when they do harm to people in your community. And as I see it, we should be marching and protesting with the same fervor and passion for the murders of black people by other black people. When the Pookies and Ray Rays go out of their way to murder our people in our community and in our families, we need to hold them as equally accountable as we would hold those outside of our community when they go out here and to commit the murders of our brothers and sisters. As I see it, the time for marching and protesting isn't just as related to these outsiders and these race soldiers and these suburban commandos. We also need to do this for ourselves, and we need to hold the people in our communities equally accountable, because that's how we set a standard for our community, because we have to demand that Black life matters to us, because if it doesn't matter to us, then how can we ask others to respect and value Black life? Because when you have, again, a coward like Christian Cooper devaluing Black life by giving Amy Cooper a pass, and when you have a bunch of Black people committing murders right outside where Rayshard Brooks lost his life at the hands of a white police officer, this shows how deeply damaged many of the people in our communities are. What's going on, Luciano? Blackest Night, Chad McIntyre's Far Side of the Far Fam, Burgess Meredith, Cortez Forever, Acune, Mobar 7170, Mr. D's. Glad to see you all here at the stream, but I had to get started because this is a topic that really I'm upset by it, because when I look at this black people, it's something we need to take a look at in ourselves, because you demand justice as related to white people, but you don't demand justice when Black people are killed by other Black people. And this is something a lot of people will say, oh, you're talking about Black on Black crime. But no, this is not about the Black on Black crime argument. This is about us not looking at the hypocrisy in our community and not looking at how our community is practically falling apart in front of us, even in the aftermath of these protests as related to George Floyd. I mean, most of these people went out here and marched in all of this fervor about George Floyd and getting justice for George Floyd, but they don't see how they undermine their cause and how they undermine their movements by giving people a pass, like the black males who shot up this 8-year-old girl in Atlanta, by giving a pass to the guy who murdered a father in front of his own daughter in the Bronx, and giving a pass to people like Christian Cooper, who, when they get an opportunity to stand up and represent black men as related to the justice they demand, practically fold like a $5 lawn chair when a 300-pound man sits on them. This is what I have a problem with, because it shows me that there are some serious issues as related to black people when they sit there on one side of their mouth, again, saying they're going to go to a Black Lives Matter protest, to march, to show that Black Lives Matter, but then go back to their very same communities to do harm to other black people. That's the troubling part of it, and it shows how deep the mental health issues go in our community, because it shows me how many are spellbound by the whole issue of self-hatred. And self-hatred is a major problem in the black community that many don't want to talk about, because the whole thing of confronting self-hatred means confronting issues as related to us on the inside. And this self-hatred, again, this comes from years of being bombarded with media from white supremacy telling you that a black person is worthless, a black person is less than, a black person has less value, and a black person is far below everybody in society. When you have this media and these images bombarding you practically every day, telling you how little value you have as a person, this teaches you that a black person has no value in the world, and it teaches you that your life really doesn't matter because everybody else has a higher value than you. And that's the big problem, is this mindset that a lot of people grow up with from birth, but no one wants to address that mindset because no one wants to confront the painful issues as related to self-hatred, because it's self-hatred that drives many of these black males and females out here to go out here and think about doing harm to another black man or another black woman, and will do this impulsively. Thank you for the Cash App. Mr. D's, for the donation. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to donate to the Cash App, you can donate to the Cash App as well. But this self-hatred, it really messes people up. I'm leaving a link to the Cash App, so if you guys want to donate there, you can. But it's this self-hatred that has you thinking, oh, it's okay for me to kill this black man or this black woman, and think that this is a justifiable action because you are in your feelings about this person either stepping on your shoes, looking at you cross-eyed, or just any other slight. You feel it's in your right to do harm to this other black person, and you will go out of your way to do harm to another black person before you go out here to do harm to a white person or a non-black person. And that's the deeply troubling thing about self-hatred, how black people will go out impulsively to do harm to another black man or another black woman, but won't even think about even confronting a white person as related to a wrong they have done. I mean, the least little slight a black person will go out here and get out a gun. And I've seen this in the late 80s, early 90s, and I'm seeing it coming back right now after all of these inmates were released from Rikers Island here in New York. That's why we have had this uptick in shootings, especially in Black communities. We've seen this uptick in shootings because of this, again, self-hatred. We have these self-hating Black people who will actively go out to do harm to another Black person. But this same Black person who has all this anger, all of this vitriol, all of this hatred for another Black brother or Black sister, what they will do when a white person does them wrong is the same type of buck dancing, bojangling, apologizing that your Christian Cooper did. I mean, what your Christian Cooper did was typical of somebody who has been brainwashed by white supremacy. They don't see where they give the white person a pass and will talk about forgiving the white person, but they will go to another Black person and think about trying to destroy them. It's like something I wrote in my novel Spellbound about the spellbound Negro. They have no problem harming another Black person, but they will go out here and they will kowtow, buck dance, bojangle, and talk about forgiveness for another white person. I'm going to leave a link to Spellbound in the chat so you guys can check that novel out. And in that story, I show you in depth how this spellbound mindset, does damage to Black people because they want to fit into this black box that's acceptable to white people. They don't see a value in their life unless there's a white person there. And that shows, again, them devaluing their own life. They're devaluing their own life because they've bought into this system of white supremacy, these ideas from white supremacy that they are less than, and they believe that because they are less than, they don't have value unless a white person tells them they have value. And they think that anybody else Black is less than, and because they think that they're less than, they believe that justifies them in killing another Black person like they would kill a roach. And that's, again, that shows how deep the self-hatred is, because when you think about murdering another Black person, that shows that you have no love of self, no sense of self-worth, and no real sense of value. I mean, nobody else in the world thinks that way, but a lot of Black people, they think that way because they come from this mindset that where they just have been brainwashed from generation to generation to buy into the concepts of white supremacy. And because they've bought into these concepts, they don't see a value in Black life. And that's where it really gets troubling as related to this whole question that I ask about Black life mattering, because you're sitting there asking people as you march and protest to say that your life matters, but it doesn't matter to you to the point where you're going to practice what you preach to people outside of your community. You preach outside of your community Black Lives Matter to white people and non-Black people, but you don't preach Black Lives Matter to Black people. And you won't go out here and march and protest with the same fervor and passion for other Black people who have lost their lives at the hands of other Black people. And you don't even see how during this campaign, as you are trying to wage a campaign to punish these white racist police officers who murdered George Floyd, you need to also wage a campaign in your community against the people in your community who have terrorized your community. You also have to wage a campaign to show Black Life Mattering by going after the Pookies, going after the Ray Rays, and after these self-hating Black people who want to turn Black communities into a Blackistan. And you also have to go after the culture of self-hatred that brainwashes young Black women and teaches them to their sons and daughters that their lives don't matter. You have to go after not only the white racist police officers and the white racist suburban commandos and the beta male terrorists. You also have to go after the urban terrorists in the black community who do harm to other black people. I mean, if you want to show that Black Life Matters, you have to make a comprehensive campaign to deal with all of the enemies of black people, because dealing with all of those enemies is how you show how much you love black people. Because the only way to defeat the core foundation of your black on black crime, your black on black hatred, and self hatred, is to teach a culture of black love. Because those who love their black skin, love other black people, love black culture, and see value in black life, they're not going to do harm to other black people unless those people are looking to do them some sort of harm. And this is something that we need to understand, is that the only way to combat this self-hatred is with love, and teaching a culture of black love, and teaching that black has value, black life has value, black culture has value, and most importantly, black people have value. And a black man's life has so much value that you're not going to think about killing another black man over something as trivial as a look, something as worthless as a pair of sneakers that only cost $4 for someone in China to make, and then are sold at an inflated markup and only make some other person rich. No, you're not going to kill your fellow black man over something as trivial as those shoes. You're not going to kill your fellow black man over a Popeye's chicken sandwich that is going to be in the toilet 8 hours from now. No, your black brother's life has more value than these material things, and they even have more value than the attention of some of these women out here. Black people have to learn our lives matter, and these things in life that we want to fight over and kill another black person over, they are trivial in the scheme of this life. And we have to see a value in our own lives to the point where we're not going to go out here and do harm to each other. And we're not going to go out here and take another man's life and have it lost and then destroy your own life, because our lives matter to us and our lives matter to everyone. What's going on, Luciano? Why do some black people call each other that word? Well, they call each other that word because some black people see this behavior that some of these people participate in, where they're looking to get attention and favor, like Terry Crews, for example. Your Terry Crews, he'll go out here and he doesn't like being black, and he only sees value in black as related to white. So what he'll do is tap dance and do this type of behavior, looking to get attention and approval from other white people. And when he does that, he shows how little value black life has to him. Because if this man loved himself, saw value in himself, he would not be out here looking to win the favor of other whites and non-blacks. No, he would say, there are certain intangibles as related to my manhood, my character, and my dignity and self-respect that I'm not going to sacrifice those things just to get the attention of someone else. Because when you go out here like a Terry Crews and you tap dance like that, what you're doing is showing black life doesn't matter, and that this white person's life matters more to you. And this goes into the part of the self-hatred part, but it also goes into the other aspect of it, which is this deification of white people. And this deification of white people, I wrote about this in the first ISIS book. It makes it where you're thinking these white people are gods, and their opinions are something you need to follow. When these white people are not gods, they are creations of God, and they are not meant to be worshipped. But you have many black people out here who are looking to worship white people and believe that they know better about life than themselves or the Most High living God. I mean, some of these people, like Terry Crews, are literally willing to put a white person on a higher pedestal before the Most High God, a violation of his commandment, where he told you not to have any gods before him in the Old Testament, and when he told you to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and spirit in the New. And these people will put this white person above themselves. And again, that shows self-hatred, because here you are making this man's opinions and viewpoints more important than your intangibles as related to your character, like your self-respect, your dignity, and your self-worth. And it shows how little you value the things as related to your self-respect and your self-worth, because you're willing to practically throw that self-respect and self-worth away just to get the attention and approval of another white person. Thank you, Ken, for the donation to the Cash App. I really appreciate it. And I mean, again, how can you ask people to matter, to your life to matter, if you're not going to show how much you value your own life? And sadly, in many black communities, we don't see how we undermine ourselves by going out here and devaluing ourselves. Because when we go out here and we attack another black man, or we go out here like we see with these online YouTube beefs and these Facebook beefs, that shows, again, black self-hatred. And where there's black self-hatred, this festers a culture where we have divisiveness and people fighting each other. And that shouldn't be the way, because again, if black life matters to us, we're going to say, okay, this guy has a difference of opinion. I disagree with this guy. I'm going to go my way. He's going to go his way. But what we're going to do is we're not going to make the race look bad. We're not going to make the collective look bad, because if we go out here and hurt each other, that's going to help other people be in a place where they can take advantage of us. And that's what racists like to do. They like to have us fighting each other, doing harm to each other. And that undermines your causes and campaigns, like the current ongoing campaign to get justice for George Floyd. I mean, it makes it harder for us to try to stay on point with the message and the mission we need to focus on, which is getting punishment for these rogue police officers who participate in doing harm to other black people and violating their civil rights. And it also undermines us because it prevents us from being able to focus on holding these people accountable and punishing them, because that's the primary focus we need to be on as related to George Floyd. But we also, again, need to focus on maintaining a consistent and equal standard in dealing with the people who do harm to ourselves. Because if we have people in our community doing harm to other people in our other community, we have to hold them equally accountable. I mean, that's what equal protection under the law is, and that's what equal rights under the law is. I mean, if you're fighting to get this white person punished for this crime they have perpetrated against another black person, we also have to fight with the same passion to get this black person who has been terrorizing our community punished and held accountable. There cannot be a pass given to these black individuals, because if we allow these black individuals to get a pass to continue to terrorize our communities and do harm to our communities, we are working against ourselves. And I've seen this go on here in New York, where shootings have increased, practically in many Black communities, and we have been undermined by our politicians and many in our communities who exploit incidents like what happened to a young man here with a backpack who was held up. His court case was held up because his lawyers didn't want to fight for him in court. And they used that to create a bail reform as related to the criminal justice system, which has turned it into a revolving door. And this revolving door has impacted Black communities. And this revolving door of criminals going in and out of jail because this argument many have in the Black community about Black people not having enough money to afford bail. This argument is doing harm to Black communities because when these individuals were detained on Rikers Island, it was done to keep the community safe and to keep them from being a further threat to the community until their court date. And this bail reform, it was done here in New York, and it made it where these guys don't have to go to Rikers until their court date. They're out on the street. And many of these Black criminals, some of them are Hispanic and some of them are white, they're going out here and they're terrorizing their neighborhoods further because they know that there is no way to hold these individuals accountable. Unfortunately, many of the Black politicians on the left, they don't want to admit that this bail reform policy has fallen apart and that this bail reform policy has led to an increase in crime. They believe that giving these kids, these Black criminals, a chance is showing how much their lives matter. Unfortunately, what they don't understand is a self-hating individual does not value Black life, and a self-hating individual is going to do harm to other Black people. And a self-hating individual, when they are given an opportunity to get a pass, what they're going to do is do more harm and wreak more havoc because they're not being held accountable. And Dee Wilbur makes a good point. And these same people also talk about defunding the police, not understanding that the combination of this argument of defunding the police, this bail reform, and the Kalief Browder incident, that's the one that led to the bail reform. But all of these tactics are leading to Black life being devalued because these people who you're trying to give so-called help to are doing harm to the Black community, because the argument that they made as related to Kalief Browder was about, oh, we need to give Black kids bail, a way out of bail, because this kid couldn't afford the bail and he stayed in Rikers Island, and this led to him committing suicide. But that wasn't really the argument that needed to be made. The argument needed to be made that why didn't this young man understand the Constitution and his right to a speedy trial? Because if he had a good attorney, that attorney would have told him that you needed to told the DA that you need to take this case to trial within 180 days, or you need to release my client. That's what somebody who has a good attorney would have told the DA, and the DA, understanding that this case is going to not go anywhere, he would have probably released him. But they want to make it about bail, but it really was not about bail. It was about a backed up district attorney's office and the DA not doing his job as related to processing these cases in a expedient way. So that was one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about the Kalief Browder case. And that's what led to this whole argument by people like your Carl Heastie and the guy who proposed this law, this Black man who proposed the law about bail reform. And they got this bail reform passed last year. And ever since January, we've had nothing but chaos here in New York, as we've had these Pookies and Ray Rays taking advantage of this bail reform law and practically using it as a way to get a revolving door out of the prison system, and then using that to further terrorize Black communities. And again, these people who you're trying to give a help to, the big problem with them is they have deep self-hatred, and these people do not value Black life. And because they do not value Black life. They go out here looking to do harm to other Black people, but no one wants to go out here and march and protest about those Black people who are harmed by people who have gotten the benefits of bail reform. And they also don't want to go out here and hold these individuals accountable when they continue to commit more crimes. I remember reading one article about a Black man who was sitting there and he had just got arrested for fair beating, and he was practically throwing a middle finger up at the criminal justice system, committing one crime after the other, and practically saying that he didn't care because he knew that bail reform was there to give him a pass. And this is what happens when you let self-hating individuals get passes. They wind up abusing people, and that's what Pookies and Ray Rays do in many Black communities. They abuse Black people because they hate themselves, they hate their people who look like them, and they hate their communities. So they look to do harm and destroy the people in their communities and destroy their communities because to them, Black life doesn't matter. And because Black life doesn't matter to them, they believe they are justified in hurting other Black people, like that father here in the Bronx who was just walking home with his daughter or going out with his daughter. This person, because he hates his life and hates his state of life, he believes he's justified in doing harm, and he wants to do harm to this Black man, not thinking about the safety of others. The same thing in Atlanta when that individual took out that weapon and fired it and killed a man and then killed that 8-year-old girl. These individuals, they don't value Black life, and we need to go after them with the same passion and fervor we go after racist police officers like the ones who murdered George Floyd. And we need to march and protest against these individuals and hold them just as accountable as we would hold these racist police officers. So this isn't just about what about the Black on Black crime as I see it. This is about showing love of Black self, because showing love of Black self, I didn't delete your comment, Ringo. I don't know what's going on with the system, but something's going on here. I mean, but this is the big, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. It must be YouTube at it again because they don't like it when you speak the truth. So I'm trying to speak some truth here, and you probably posted some truth. But the whole thing is nobody wants to deal with this Black on Black crime out here, and nobody wants to hold these criminals equally accountable as related to their actions. I mean, we talk about Black life mattering in Black communities, and we're not talking and marching and protesting down to Manhattan and places like that. Because I looked at that whole thing with Bill de Blasio, and he's painting the sign on Fifth Avenue. I'm like, you're painting the sign at talking about Black life mattering to get back at Donald Trump, but you have a situation where a father was murdered just walking down the street with his daughter. I mean, that's a problem for me as I see it. You don't see what's going on here, and you don't see what's going on with these Black communities. You're giving them a pass for the crimes that they commit, and saying, oh, we can put this sign up here, which is just, as I see it, another empty symbolic gesture that means nothing, because that sign on Fifth Avenue means nothing. Yeah, you think you're throwing a middle finger up at Trump passively, but aggressively, you haven't done anything for Black people, allowing this crime to get worse with these imbecilic laws like this bail reform, which allows these urban terrorists to continue terrorizing Black communities, allowing these urban terrorists to wreak havoc, and you allow them to get that pass, but then you want to talk about your protesting and talking about Black life mattering. But if you wanted to show Black life mattering, you would let Pookie and Ray Ray stay in Rikers Island so they wouldn't do harm to other Black people, and you would also give black people the tools to deal with Pookie and Ray Ray, because Pookie and Ray Ray don't love being black. They don't love their communities, and they don't care about their communities. They they want to hurt other black people because their minds are completely a mess. When you look at these Pookies and Ray Rays, they have been taught a culture of self-hatred. And because they've been taught a culture of self-hatred, all they want to do is harm other black people. Because the same Pookie and Ray Ray, I tell you this much, whenever they get in front of a white person, this Pookie and Ray Ray, they will turn into the weakest and most docile individual you have ever seen in your life. And this Pookie and Ray Ray, they will start buck dancing, bojangling, kowtowing, deferring, just the same way your Harvard educated Chris Cooper was out here buck dancing and bojangling and talking about, oh, what about their life? Again, devaluing their own black life. And that self-hatred runs deep from our black elite, like your Christian Cooper, all the way down to your Pookie and Ray Ray, who both have the same messed up mindset. And because they have the same messed up mindset, they still sit there and think about doing harm to another black man, or doing harm, like in the case of cowardly Christian Cooper. I believe he thinks he's doing harm to other black men in order to get access to other white people. He believes that by doing harm to other black people, he will be able to benefit from that. And again, that's coming from a place. Thank you for donating, Ringo. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a minute right now, about this abortion. And again, that's another black on black crime no one wants to talk about. And that is that we talk about Black Life Mattering, but why do we have this black women leading the nation in abortions? I mean, if Black life mattered to black people, then why are we aborting our babies at a record speed? That's another thing that shows, again, the deep self-hatred that black men and black women have for each other. And that when you don't want to have a black man's baby and you abort that baby, that shows black female self-hatred and how little black life matters. I mean, you don't see other races aborting their babies and aborting their seed because they value their life. Thank you, Kevin De Los Santos, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And we have murdered, as he said, 20 million plus black babies. And again, these could have been our doctors, our lawyers, our educated professionals, but we murder those people. We murder those babies, and we murder them before they even get a chance at life. And again, if you value black life and you love black life, you're not going to want to kill your children. You're not going to want to abort your children. That's another part that shows, again, the lack of black love and a lack of love for blackness, because they abort, yeah, Ringo, you make a good point. They abort our future voters. They abort our future businessmen. They abort our future families. I mean, you can't have a legacy without a black child, and you can't have a legacy to pass on without black children. So this is what black people don't understand, is you're trying to tell me Black life matters, but what you show me is how little black life matters by the things you participate, the actions you participate in, because the actions you participate in send a message to me how little you value black life. Because when I looked at the actions that I saw over the last 2-3 weeks, the last 2-3 weeks have shown me that black life really doesn't matter to a lot of black people, because if black life mattered to black people would not have, during a protest to talk about Black life mattering, go out here and murder an 8-year-old girl, murder a father walking with his child, increase shootings up 500% in New York City and other cities across the country. I mean, if Black life really mattered to Black people, their actions would be consistent with their protest, and their actions would fit right in line with their protest. So that's really troubling for me. Again, when they sit there and say this, Black life matters, but then you're gonna sit there and continue to do harm and then make excuses for people. So I'm looking at this, and that the whole thing is that they don't really they sit there and they make these protests and talking about putting these signs in the street, and people they're not looking at those signs, they're looking at your community, and they look at your community, they look at the actions of the individuals in your community, and it's those actions that speak louder than your words. Your words say are okay. Oh, we're saying Black Lives Matter. We're marching down the street to talk about Black Lives Matter. But you're sitting there, people killing each other in the neighborhood, people doing harm to each other over the most trivial things. I mean, people looking to do harm to another Black man faster than they would another white person. I mean, your Christian Cooper, I mean, this Amy Cooper was practically going to practically have this man set up for, as I call it, a cop on demand lynching. And he's talking about forgiveness. He's talking about she suffered enough. He's talking about this woman who had no regard for his life, and his life doesn't matter to him, to the point where he's sitting there and willing to literally say, my life doesn't matter. That's the message he sent to the world when he said he didn't want to cooperate with the DA. And the message he sent was quite troubling, because this man, again, had a chance to set legal precedent for Black men and Black women as related to how we're treated in this country. And because he was only in his feelings about white people and their value of their lives, he couldn't see how he was going to impact other Black people's lives. The same thing with all of these other people who committed all of these crimes. Here we have, again, you in this protest making these statements talking about, I mean, right across the street from where Rayshard Brooks was murdered, the Wendy's that was burnt down, you're going to sit there and participate in a shooting just 2-3 weeks after Rayshard Brooks lost his life at the hands of these white police officers. You're going to sit there and murder an 8-year-old girl, and you're going to tell me that, and again, this is right across the street from a Black Lives Matter protest, but you're going to tell me Black Lives Matter, but you're going to allow this murderer to get a pass because it's a so-called Black on Black crime. And again, that shows Black self-hatred. And if the only way to show that Black life matters is with Black love, because Black people who love themselves, they're the only ones who can show us that Black lives matter, because they value the lives of their brothers, they value the lives of their sisters, they value the babies that they are impregnated with, to the point where they want to have those babies. They value their babies to the point where they want to care for their children. They value their babies to the point where they want to raise and nurture their children. And they value their families. And this is how you show Black life mattering, because when you value a Black person's life, you are going to show it in your actions, and you're not just going to pay lip service to it. And that's the big problem I have with a lot of Black people, especially those in Black Lives Matter. They talk lip service about Black life mattering, but they don't want to go out here and follow through with the actions. Their actions just aren't in line with their words. Their words are, oh, we're going to go to this march talking about Black Lives Matter and tell white people Black Lives Matter. but we're not going to talk about Black life mattering when we get back to our communities, when we run into people we disagree with, when we run into people we don't like, when we run into people we have issues with. We want to harm those individuals faster than we would harm a white person who would do somebody harm, like I forget his name, Ahmaud Arbery. I mean, the killers of Ahmaud Arbery and George Zimmerman, they have nothing to fear from Black people. I mean, they practically know that all we're going to do is march and protest. And I'm not advocating any harm of anyone, but the whole thing is that we won't do anything to them, but we'll go out right after the protest looking to go beat up some other Black person because he stepped on your Nikes, or he said something to you, or he said something about something you didn't like. You're quick to go pull out box cutters. You're quick to pull out 9mm. You're quick to go do harm to another Black person, but you're not going to go out here and hold white people and non-Black people who do you harm. You're not going to hold them accountable at all. I mean, I look at cases like the Black woman who got punched in the face by the Asian store owner. Nobody talked about getting them justice, nor did, like in the case of the Asian nail salon where the Black women got beat up, nobody wanted to get them justice either. I mean, people can do whatever they want to Black people and they'll give them a pass, but let somebody Black just, again, look at somebody wrong, and we got weapons out looking to murder another Black person. Thank you, Black Panther 11, for that super chat. I really appreciate it. I have to speak this truth because I look at this whole these protests, and nobody wants to look at the other aspect of it. I mean, we have in the media, again, this talk about this rise in shootings in Black neighborhoods. We have all of this crime going up, and we are having people who are still, they'll get on a bus, they'll get on a train, they'll ride all the way down to places like Fifth Avenue here in New York, or a downtown area filled with whites and non-Blacks, and they'll march and protest talking about Black life mattering. But when they get back uptown to the hood, when they get back to neighborhoods like Morrisania, where I used to live, they don't practice what they preach. And it's that not practicing what they preach that I have a real serious issue with, because you want to go out there and tell these white people and these non-Black people, hey, my life matters. But when you get back to your community, you are quick to do harm to another Black person or speak bad about another Black person. So that's the thing we need to focus on, because it goes back to a principle Christ talked about you have to take the mote out of your own eye before you address the plank in your brother's. And Black people, we need to address this mote that's in our eye, because this mote that's in our eye is something we need to take that critical examination of, because you cannot tell other people to value your life when you don't value your own life. I mean, if you're willing to practically throw away your own life just to get crumbs from the slave master's table, then how can you tell other Black people to value your own life? That's a question I would ask Christian Cooper, because he doesn't understand that even with his Harvard education, he still has deep self-hate issues. And that's something other Black people need to understand, is that you can't sit there and tell people, oh, my life matters, but I'm going to sit there and then demand other people value my life. I want the white man to value my life, but I don't want the Black man to value my life. But it starts out, the only way for you to show that to make your life matter is for your life to be valued by other Black people. Because when a Black man's life matters to another Black man, then he has the foundation to go out here and demand justice and demand a Black agenda. Because when Black people love other Black people and see value in other Black people, then they can go and make an effort to present a platform to other races and demand respect from those races. Because if you don't respect yourself and you don't respect your own people, then how can you demand respect from others? And that's another critical question I want to ask all these people out here like your Christian Cooper. How do you expect to get respect when you disrespect yourself? And this is a problem with black people out here. They want to sit up here and talk about how they want respect, but then they don't get respect because they don't respect themselves. Because in order to get respect, you have to give respect to people who are look like you. And if you respect other black people and you respect yourself, then you're going to get respect, and you're going to get respect from others. I mean, people who want respect understand that if they don't like themselves, don't love themselves, don't value themselves, then they're not going to get any respect from anybody else. And you can't take respect from others unless you have a value of self. And this is the big problem with black people. They want others to value them, but then they devalue themselves. So how can you expect somebody to see your value and see that you matter when you don't see that you matter? That's another critical question I want to ask black people like your Christian Cooper and many others who are participating in all of these crimes. How do you ask other people to value you when you devalue yourself? Patrick Smith, I did remember, I used to watch that video on Video and Music Box where Just Ice talked about the welfare recipients, and I saw it. It's still on YouTube right now. I remember that video. Me talking about welfare check. Everybody come and get your welfare check. And a lot of people didn't like that song, but he told the truth about this welfare and welfare recipients and how they make, because the whole thing with welfare, and I grew up on it, it makes you dependent. It makes you buy into a slave mindset, and it makes you buy into a victim mindset. And the whole thing is that welfare mindset is a part of self-hatred, because it teaches you that you don't have any value, you don't have any worth, and that you have to take second best. And it's not a good mindset to have. I mean, the welfare mindset, it really messes up kids at an early age. It messes up their upbringing and development. And it has you thinking like a victim. So it's not something you want to do to your children. But a lot of single mothers, they think that if they go to welfare, they can get help. But the whole thing is, it does more harm to your children mentally. And that harm makes it where they don't see their own value and their own worth. And it doesn't make them think that their lives matter, because they're thinking that the government will come and save them. And it makes it where they don't want to take responsibility for self. And that's one of the things that the welfare mindset teaches. And you have to be very, again, people don't see how this stuff does damage to people, because a lot of black people, they think that their lives don't matter because they buy into the welfare thinking, they buy into the welfare mindset. And again, that dependence teaches self-hatred, because one of the things that will build your confidence, I will tell you this, is going out to work for yourself. Because when you work for yourself, you're going to get that sense of purpose. You're going to get that feeling of confidence, that feeling of self-worth. And that's going to really bolster your confidence, and it's going to make you feel like your life matters. I mean, when you go out and go to work every day, you will feel completely different. I remember when I was working at the Strive Job Readiness Workshop, I mean, I just felt confident. I felt energy. I mean, when you go to work you feel that. And when you go to work for yourself, you also feel that. Because again, feeling that sense of purpose, that sense of worth, that's something that makes you believe that your life matters, believe that things matter. And that's something that is important for every man out here. I mean, that's why work is important for black men and black women, but a lot of us aren't taught that work matters. We're just taught, and again, that goes back to the self-hatred. We're taught, oh, we don't matter, so we don't have to work. And again, when you're taught that you're not able to work, it teaches you that you don't matter. So when you're not taught to work, you're teaching yourself that you don't matter. But when you go to work, it teaches you that you matter, you have a purpose, you have value, and you do have value to the Most High Living God because He made you, and He made you with a purpose, and He made you to do work. So that's also a part of it. But Black people, we really have to take that critical examination of self, as I see it, because we don't really see how we're messed up. We don't really see how self-hatred has done a wrecking ball to the Black mind and the Black psyche. And we're not really looking at Black self-hatred and understanding that how it impacts us and how it impacts our actions, because it's just a walking contradiction to march and protest talking about Black life mattering, but then you're going to go back to your neighborhood and do harm to your fellow Black man and fellow Black woman, and you're going to abort your own babies, and then that shows again a contradiction, and that contradiction needs to be addressed, because you can't march and protest on one hand and demand justice. And it's right for us to demand justice and punishment of those rogue police officers, but of people who truly love themselves. They're not just going to protest those people on the outside of the community, these other races who do us harm. They're also going to protest those on the inside with the same fervor. Joey B., how do we stop Black self-hatred? Well, that's easy. You have to learn how to love yourself, love being Black, love Black skin, love Black people. And that's how you stop Black self-hatred. Black self-hatred is something, it's a mental process, and it's not a hard process, because I learned how to break out of that. I mean, unconsciously we may have it here or there, but I really love Black people. I love being Black. I love my Black skin. I love promoting positive images of Black people and positive aspects of Black culture. I mean, the only way you stop Black self-hatred is with Black love, and Black love is how we all show Black life mattering, because when you love being Black, you love other Black people, and when you see another Black man or another Black woman, you smile because you're seeing another Black person like yourself, and sometimes you even see yourself like in that same position. When I see another Black man having success, it makes me happy. When I see another Black woman having success, it makes me happy. When I see other Black people on the street, it makes me happy. And again, when you have a Black love mindset, you are happy in the presence of other Black men and Black women, and it's something you really enjoy. I remember when I was working at AmeriCorps Strive, and I was working with a predominantly Black employees. I mean, I was very happy in that work environment to see educated, professional brothers and sisters in that environment. I mean, that was one of the 20 years ago. It was a great experience for me to just be in a work environment where it was primarily Black people, and it was something that I still cherish as an experience, because you don't really think about things like that and how important it is to just be around other educated, professional Black people. I mean, when you go into other work environments, you don't really see it that. But that's one of the experiences I had, was being in that environment. And it made me see the value of being Black and see other Black professionals like myself having good jobs and doing good for the community and helping out in the community. I mean, it's an experience that I really enjoyed, and I would love to give other Black people, like if I ever got to expand SJS Direct, would love to have an environment like that. I mean, again, that's something that can instill pride in you and confidence in you, and it'll show you that Black lives matter, because when you see other Black people like yourself in a work environment, it makes you value other Black people and see a value in Black life. Thank you, One Last Dummy, for the super chat. He says Black self-hatred caused by cultural Marxism. No, Black self-hatred is caused by white supremacy and the belief in the religion of white supremacy. The religion of white supremacy teaches Black people that they are inferior, they are less than, and that in order to find value, they need to find white acceptance and white approval. So black self-hatred is one of the core tenets of white supremacy, and white supremacy wants to see black people in a place where they are less than, and they need black people to be in a place where they're less than, because that's how they benefit economically. Because as long as you've got the black man and the black woman at the bottom of the world, and the black man and the black woman dependent on seeking out white approval, then that black man and black woman, they are not going to look to self to empower themselves. They're not going to look to build businesses in their own community. They're not going to look to build their own families. No, what they're going to do is look to go out here and build in another man's community, and they're going to look to get favor and approval through social currency from that other man's system. So what that black man and black woman are going to do is take their $3.3 trillion in cash and credit and give 97% of those dollars to this white businesses, these Asian hair weave and nail salons, and they're going to go out here and buy their food from Arab stores because they don't see a value in a black person. They don't see a value in a black product, and they don't see a value in black anything. So the way they need black people to be out here dependent on their system, because that's how they enrich themselves economically. And they know that if we started valuing ourselves, we would produce products for ourselves and we would compete with them. And they don't want us to compete with them. So they create the concept of white supremacy in order to keep you dependent on their religion. And as long as you are dependent on their religion, then what happens is you follow this religion seeking the validation of this white God. And as long as you're seeking the validation of this white God, you are pushed further and further away from the Most High and following this false God, this false Christ. And this false Christ is sitting there getting rich at your expense, and you're missing out on the abundant life God has for you. So this is all part of the self-hatred. They don't want you to love yourself. They don't want you to love who you are, because they need you to make money off you, and they need you dependent on them. So black lives don't matter to them. They want black dollars, and they want black bodies to be dependent on, because they can't live without the black man or the black woman. They need the black man and the black woman's resources in order to enrich themselves at our expense. And this is something that many black people don't think about as related to Black life mattering, because they don't understand the value of black life. And they don't understand that when you love yourself, you value who you are, then what happens is black people wind up dependent on others for their survival. Far Side fan, speaking on how come so many Arabs own and operate bodegas. What happened was the Hispanics got so rich here in New York that they wound up leaving and retiring, and they handed it over from the Puerto Ricans and Dominicans to the Arabs. So what happened was we had the Hispanics do so well that they practically became a middle class within the last 30 years from running the bodegas, that they didn't need them anymore. When their kids got older, went into college, they got jobs, and they didn't need the family business anymore. A lot of them retired and went to Florida, or they retired overall. And now the Arabs have taken over. And again, that was all those businesses were originally black-owned businesses, but black people, because they are spellbound, they bought into this idea that the white man's ice is colder, wanted to shop at the white stores. And what happened was we lost the black economy. And that was really one of the saddest things to come out of the integration, was the loss of the black economy. We lost our economy because black people didn't love the black community. They didn't love working or buying buying products from black people. We don't love ourselves, and because we didn't love ourselves, we wound up taking away things that mattered. I mean, if black life mattered to black people, they would go out here and buy books like my Temptation of John Haynes is on Amazon. What's going on, Michonne, tonight? Glad to see you here. First time I've ever seen you on one of my streams. But she's a regular viewer of my channel. Sorry. Temptation of John Haynes is on Amazon. You can pick up that book. But the whole thing is that we bought into integration. We didn't want equal opportunity or equal access economically. What we wanted was, many people wanted social currency and white acceptance, but social currency and white acceptance do not build black wealth. They do not build black families, and they don't allow us with the businesses to build a strong economic system that will allow us to have legacies that are passed on from generation to generation. I mean, that's something a lot of black people don't understand. They talk about, again, black life mattering, but if black life mattered to you, you wouldn't want to think about running to the first white person or seeking the first white person's approval. You would be, or working for the first white person you could find. You would be thinking about, let me find a way to develop my own black-owned business and build a black-owned business that will help other black people. I mean, that's what people who value other black people do. They think about building businesses to help other black people. I mean, a lot of these people with the integration, again, Brick City Girl 1970 makes a good point. They were thinking about interracial sexual access and being with white people. I mean, they weren't thinking about building and empowering for other black people. So integration really, again, One Less W makes a good point. If somebody doesn't want you in their business, then why would you want to go there? I said that many years ago when I went to a Dr. J's on Fordham Road, when I was given a hard time in their store. I said, well, it was like 95, no, it was 96, 97. I went in there, I was buying something, and I said, why am I putting up with this abuse in this store just to buy some Timberland boots? Why am I putting up with this? I mean, my money has value. I have value. Let me stop going to these stores that abuse me, want to hold my bags, want to follow me around. Why am I putting up with this abuse? I mean, that was one of the things I said to myself, 97. And that's what people have to say. When you value yourself, you're going to say, look, I'm not going to put up with being abused just to buy something. And I'm not going to put up with having to deal with all sorts of nonsensical policies. I'm going to walk and I'm going to take my money elsewhere, because if this business is to survive, then they need to show me respect. And if they can't show me respect and show me that they value my life and value my money, then I can take my money elsewhere. And that was one of the brainchilds that people of the civil rights movement didn't really understand. They kept looking for social acceptance, and they didn't understand that if equal rights was about getting equal rights under the law, it was not about seeking white approval. Thank you, Charlie Norwood, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. And that's something people don't think about. They just go to the store. I want to go to these stores, and I want people, but people are not, they don't have a right to mistreat you in these stores. They don't have a right to disrespect you in these stores. And you have to demand better. And this is something black people, they need to understand, is that you have to, in order to demand better, you have to love yourself. You have to value being black, and you have to value being black enough that you're not going to let anybody devalue being black and devalue you for being black. So, things you have to really think about as related to being black. And again, when black life matters to us, then we can set, then other people will value it. But until we value Black life, then we can't really come at other people saying we demand you to show that Black life matters. But when we go out here and kill each other, it just really sets a really hypocritical argument, because you're sitting there saying, oh, Black life matters, and you're going to march and protest for Black life mattering, but we're going to sit there and kill each other. It just doesn't work that way. It just shows, again, we really have not taken that critical examination of self, and we really need to take that examination of self, because if we don't deal with this Black self-hatred, we're not going to be able to progress as a people. Luciano, what was your question? Why is kid abuse massively ignored in the Black community? Well, it's ignored because many Black single mothers, they oftentimes have something I call this selective hearing and this selective seeing, because women are emotional. And because they're emotional, what they do is they tune out things that are negative as related to the problems in the home. And because they don't want to confront or take responsibility for situations that they don't find appealing, what they will do is deny that they're happening. And this is something I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, as related to ways single mothers destroy their sons. And this is why a lot of children get abused in the Black community, because the single mother, because she wants to keep a man, she will deny sexual abuse, she will deny physical abuse, and even in some cases, she will just tune it out and act like it doesn't happen. And that's something many women do, because they just don't know how to cope with things, and it's part of what happens when they shut down. Because a lot of times when you have these single mothers, they just go out here and they shut down, and they don't want to deal with problems that they can take responsibility for. Thank you for this narrative. You guys can get your own copies on Amazon. And I'm getting ready to write a blog talking about ways single mothers destroy their daughters, because while I've talked about those ways single mothers destroy their, let me see. I don't know what's going on with my audio, but it's YouTube at it again. But the whole thing is that I've seen the way single mothers destroy their sons, and the way they destroy their daughters does even more damage. I'm getting ready to do a blog on that. I just need to have time to write it, but I'm gonna write that one soon. And William Von Shadow asks, how do Black men keep from being influenced by the negativity of their neighborhoods? Well, one of the things that helped me when I was growing up as a kid was watching shows like The Cosby Show, doing things like reading comic books like Milestone Comics, and doing things to go out here and help myself. So what I used to do was find positive influences, and that's one of the reasons why I go out here and write books like John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, to give Black men positive images of Black men and positive images of Black manhood. And when you read stuff like this, it affects your mind. When you read books that are written to present you a positive image of Black men, Black masculinity, and Black manhood, you don't wind up being influenced by negative images. So I used to grow up reading comics like with Jim Rhodes as Iron Man and many other comics featuring Black heroes. And that helped me out a lot. And again, that's one of the things that influenced me to write books like Temptation of John Haynes, because I wanted to give Black men positive images to keep them from being influenced by the negativity of the neighborhood. And just going out here and seeing other Black men out here, like my family members out here, they presented me image of Black men who were positive. I mean, people like my father and my brother presented me positive images of Black manhood to show me an example of Black manhood. And this is what helps you not be influenced by the negativity of the streets, is seeing other Black men, watching YouTube channels of other Black men right now. I mean, guys like Ringo, guys like myself, guys like Mr. Superboy, guys like Advice Show, when you see other black men, they're modeling black manhood for you. So when you look at the neighborhood, you might see a lot of guys in the street, but then when you go online, you see brothers like myself out here, and that inspires and influences you to see somebody you can aspire to be like, and people in your own neighborhood you can relate to who are just like you. I mean, that's one of the things that I did again as a kid. I mean, I grew up with Cosby Show, Robert Townsend, movies like House Party, and all those things made me see a positive image of blackness, and I wanted to build on that legacy of a positive image of blackness so that others could go out here and be able to build on that legacy. So you can get books like The Determination, John Haynes, on Amazon in paperback, and you can also find it. Yeah, Mr. Superboy is called Your World. What's going on, Ja Rules? Glad to see you here. But whenever you have those negative influences in your neighborhood, go look for some positive, influences out here, because they are out here, but you just have to go out here and seek them. I mean, you have tools that I didn't even have as a kid. I mean, back when I was a kid, all we had was really comic books, magazines, a couple of TV shows like Tony Brown's Journal. But whatever you seek out and feed your mind, it's going to help you grow, and it's going to help you become a stronger person, because the media you feed yourself, it can change your perspective on things and give you a bigger picture. Yeah, well, I have to do something about this mic on this computer. I might have to go get the other mic next time, Revolution. But it's just I don't know. YouTube could be doing some things, because I haven't had any problems with the stream. Because whenever you talk truth on YouTube, what they do is they start doing stuff to the stream to make problems. So YouTube does not like when Black people are presenting positive media or empowering media, even though your Susan Wojcicki talked about donating $100 million or spending $100 million to help Black channels. Whenever Black channels start talking about Black empowerment, what happens is they start doing things to the channels to try to get those people to come off the platforms. That's something YouTube has done on the regular. Whenever you start talking about Black empowerment or talking about Black pride or Black love, they don't like seeing that type of thing. And again, just like they did to Ringo, they blocked his comment, and they block comments, they do stuff. They don't like seeing Black men in particular speaking on certain subjects. And this subject makes them uncomfortable, because whenever you talk about do Black Lives Matter to Black people, it makes them take that look within. They don't want us taking that look within, because if we take that look within, then we're not going to be worshiping at the altar of whiteness. Or, yeah, you can't critique Black women. I mean, I could do a whole Patreon video on the people you can't talk about on YouTube. And that's one of the problems with YouTube, is that you can only say certain things. Like if I was to do a whole stream talking about comic books, or if I was talking about some other topic, they wouldn't have a problem with it. But if I start talking about something like this, about Black love, Black empowerment, they got a problem with it. And that's one of the problems with this platform, is that they only want certain narratives. Now, if I was on here roasting another Black man, attacking another Black man, they'd have no problem with that, because it promotes the narratives they want to see. And the narratives they want to see are Black self-hatred, Black people attacking each other, going back and forth with each other, Black people roasting each other. And they have no problem with that. They have no problem with Black YouTube beefs, YouTube back and forths, beefing and arguing, cooking and roasting videos, a clown show. I mean, if I came on here and pushed a clown show, they'd have no problem with me doing a clown show. I mean, that's what they want to see. They don't like the idea of intelligent Black men like myself speaking out, because an intelligent Black man, again, as I've said numerous times, refutes many of their narratives. And when you have a Black man talking about loving Black people, this really pushes against every false narrative they have about black men, because their whole thing about black men is either they want to show us as a criminal, they want to show us as a black brute, they want to show us beating up people and being violent, or fighting over chicken sandwiches, or all sorts of foolishness. They just have they just don't like seeing certain things, and it becomes a problem on this platform. And again, they want to talk about how they support Black Lives Mattering, but when black people show how Black Life matters to them, they try to delete the comments and delete stuff and try to censor that platform. So that's one of the reasons why it's hard to get these messages out here. But I wanted to do this stream because I wanted to make a point, ask that critical question: do Black Lives matter to black people? Because I believe that it matters to a lot of black people, but we have to start showing how it matters to us. We can't go out here and march and protest for others to see our value until we see our own value. So I'm going to get ready to wrap up tonight's stream, and I have some good news as related to the Easteen No Good Deed comic strip. I got the pages back from the letterer, and now that I've got the pages back from the letterer, I'm going to get ready to put them on the Patreon. So all of the patrons, you're going to be able to see that comic strip for free. And I'm going to announce when that strip is going to go to the Patreon. And it's a thank you to all the people who supported me on Patreon. I saved up all of your Patreon pledges, and I saved up all of your super chats to pay for this comic strip's art and lettering. And that comic strip, again, is going to be on the Patreon soon. So again, it's my thank you to all my viewers for supporting me over the last 2 years. And it's what I want to use as a preview to an ISIS graphic novel. And I want to show you an example of what you would get from a Sean James comic strip. So that's something I wanted to do for the viewers, because I want to branch out from doing novels like The Temptation of John Haynes and books in the John Haynes series like John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, and ISIS, The Main Event, to doing comics. So I want to branch out, and I want to show an example of that. What's going on, Chris Brown? Chris is the creator of the Omega Black manga, an awesome black manga, and he's looking to let's see if I can find, to get his Indiegogo up off the ground. He needs 300 emails in order to get started. And the people who sign up for his Indiegogo, you're going to get shipping for free when you pledge on it. Thank you, Mobar7170. I really wanted to do a good one for this one, but Chris has got this Indiegogo, and he needs 300 signatures. As far as I know, it's 217 right now. And if we get another, 83, we can get to 300, and all those people get shipping for free. So click the link to the Indiegogo to sign up for that. This manga is extremely awesome, and you can pick up, my books, ISIS, The Main Event, which is part of the 2020 catalog, on Amazon. Clicking the link in the chat or heading over to Amazon. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle for free, oh yeah, the Indiegogo launches in August. I'm going to put in my pledge for that, and you can pick up John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, on Amazon as well. This has an awesome Mike Williams cover, and you can also get the brand new Temptation of John Haynes on Amazon.com. This one has a new cover, and it has a new back matter, and the awesome critically acclaimed, story from The Temptation of John Haynes that starts everything related to John Haynes. So you definitely want to pick this one up. And I have, again, all these books are available on Amazon.com. And you can also find The Temptation of John Haynes on Gumroad.com. And you can, again, find ISIS, The Main Event on Kindle and paperback. And I really would like to get some more fiction sales. So I hope everybody heads over to Amazon to pick up the books. But the No Good Deed strip will be coming to Patreon, and all the patrons will be able to read that strip for free. Bill Walko did an amazing job on that strip. And let me see. And Eric Weathers did an amazing job on the lettering of the strip. I mean, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the lettering. People love the lettering so far, and they love the Bill Walco's art on it. And I can't wait to share that with you guys on the Patreon. So you definitely want to head over to the Patreon and in a couple of days to see that. But this is a reward I'm giving everybody, and it's going to be coming. I'm going to let you know when it's coming. But I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's stream, and I hope you'll be there for the next stream.